Guys, welcome. And we're talking about changing money and changing the way businesses look at money and revenue. And of course, what we do from a cash perspective. Cash money in our marketplace is never going away. You know, whether we talk about, and for a moment, gold-backed funds, actually having gold, or what we do with money and how money works for a business. But business has always, throughout history, worked in many different fashions or facets. There's traditional coins, there's bars, and then we move to paper slips, and we move to credit notes, and that all started in the 12th, 13th, and 14th century in Europe. But China had that for close to 2,000 years instead. So each one of these things all led to the way money moves around. But yet part of what we've had through that entire time has always been that something of value was exchanged for something else. Now, whether we traded it, in other words, I offered you my services in return for something you had. I looked at your product, services, commodities, or offerings, and in return, I offered you a product, service, commodity, or offering. So monetization is not new, but the way we look at money and the world that we've built now surprisingly has eliminated an awful lot of what has been taken for granted, or heck, even our grandparents, or maybe even our parents understood about how we trade for value. You don't have to drive very far, in fact, from where we are, to find any farming community where you see barter happening, where you see an exchange for one thing, where I'm going to give you a handmade quilt in favor of chickens or a pig, where everybody's going to come together as a community and do a barn raising, and I'm going to trade off food instead for that service. So we have always had other ways to commoditize what we do from a business perspective, but now very, very rarely do we look at things instead of saying, what can I get from you in favor of your credit card or debit card, as opposed to other ways to attribute value. So if you can barter, that is trading what I have now in favor of something else that I need or want, etc. So for us to do this, we need to understand how else businesses do it, because we move so far away from that, it actually bears coming back and looking at it. And there are a number of incredible systems and industries out there. There's an entire barter ecosystem. There's alternate levels of currency. There's digitally created currencies, etc. You know, Bitcoin and stuff like that. So money is no longer just money. And what I can get for money is actually quite superfluous. It's almost indifferent compared to how valuable it is. I can buy the same thing for two very different levels of money, and it can be the identical thing. I can buy the same thing for different values in currency. And as we know, whether you're living in Canada, the US, or elsewhere, and I mean, Greg, you have the opportunity to travel to Europe, is that depending on where you are also depends on the value of things. In fact, it is cheaper to buy a truck if you're in the US over the border in Canada and have it shipped, because the value of our actual currency, an American dollar compared to a Canadian dollar, is so different that I'm willing to pay tariffs and import duties to bring that truck from Canada to the US to get the same or better features than what I could buy off the lot here and still save money. So what does that say about the way we perceive value of money? I got cash in my pocket, that's all that matters. Well, that cash is very different in value. And so it pays to find different ways to monetize our business and different tools or methodologies so that we continue to get what we need. Because at the end of the day, we're all exchanging money for the same basic things. Essential services, a roof over our head, food in our belly, heat, water. In the cases of being able to travel, fuel for our vehicles, etc. In the case of business, being able to communicate. So when we can start to translate or transmit some of those essential needs in a different way, or when we look at those things that enrich our lives or we just find enjoyment in, books, videos, games, clothing, etc. Bright and shiny kit and object, we can actually monetize in very different ways. And so Matt has been working in a few of these tools and methods for the last few years. Matt is an expert and a master, if you will. He's explored many of them, and he's part of that, and he's going to talk about some of the modeling and the different ways that we can leverage what we want to get what we need to, and to really change the way money works for our business, but more importantly, to find different ways to monetize our business. Matt, floor.
Thank you, Mitch. I appreciate it very much. So listen, what we'll do is over the course of the next 15, 20 minutes, I'll kind of explore what everyone's knowledge is of quote unquote, what you believe barter is. And what we found is, you know, we're a company that's been around for over 2 decades. And as we've kind of migrated west, because we were so prosperous in this province of ours, we didn't need to be creative business operators. We kind of had a standard package. We, had our costs. If those costs went up, we just increased our average retail dollar, right? But now what we've seen is obviously with the slowdown over the past couple of years, and specifically now with COVID-19, we're able to operate in a realm that many business owners, small business owners, don't really get. Because when you say barter, you're thinking, oh, wait a minute, the government's going to come and knock on my door. So yes, that's unorganized barter, and that typically happens between two individuals that have been very, very lucky and have spent a great deal of time finding something that I or they want from somebody else that also wants what they have. And that's unorganized barter. So what we're going to talk about today is a structure that's been put in place through our platform that, again, we've operated for over 24 years. I've been lucky and grateful enough to be the franchisee here in Alberta for the last 4. And it's something that we'll explore. I have a couple of slides for you, so I'm going to share my screen in just a moment. But as I kind of look through the room, I see who and what we are, which is fantastic. I think there's definitely some conversation opportunities. I can give some examples of what we do and why we do it. And then at the end of it, I really encourage questions, because what happens is that you may have an appreciation of what we do at the end of this, and I hope that I can communicate that to you effectively enough. But I really want to get some feedback from you, because it's about the specifics. Obviously, in the world of Zoom conference calls being the new norm, it's something that we can do, and we can operate at a very high level through our company because we operate digitally anyway. But we really see the greatest success by diving into the specifics of the small businesses, our clients and our partners. And again, I'll explain a little bit more through these slides, so just bear with me here while I share a screen. And there we go. So we should see BarterPay. And again, so our brand has been around for just over 2 decades. We operated as trade bank in the past. And what we found is that first, it was a franchise model. We didn't control our destiny. And we found that in Canada, we were actually out trading the US market 2 to 1, which speaks to our CEO, our president, and now co-founder of BarterPay. And we as franchisees decided to say, well, listen, we want to control our destiny here in Canada first, with the opportunity to be a global entity. And that's what has brought us to a rebranding just over a year ago. And who is BarterPay? BarterPay is a community of businesses that span all across Canada. So we operate in Vancouver Island, Victoria, all the way to Moncton. A couple of gaps in there, but of course we can say that we're coast to coast. And really, with what is happening currently in Canada, we've seen quite a lot of engagement, because people are at home. Businesses are now looking for new and different ways to engage with clients, to create market penetration, market share, and most importantly, to save money, because you just don't have the cash flow that you may have once had. Here, specifically in Alberta, although Canada's in a new fight, Alberta's been in a long distance fight here for quite some time, and we're in round 12 or 13. So, we've now seen that we're able to engage with these small businesses and say, listen, let us know and appreciate what you do, what your points of difference are, and allow us to become really a marketing agency, a loyalty program for you up front. So how does it work? We've helped create over $2 million in new revenue every month nationally. Locally, we're just getting started. And again, we found it quite interesting that, again, people and business owners here didn't really barter because they didn't need to. They just simply, again, said cash is king. I'm 100% busy 100% of the time. And if that is the case for you right now, take the cash. Cash will always be king. It'll always be queen. That's how you're paying your mortgage. Now, again, obviously specific situations would say that you don't have to pay a mortgage right now, but long-term, that you always want to take in cash. We are about small incremental gains on your top line, and then a small incremental gains or savings on your bottom line. So, you know, if I could show you a 10% increase in new sales, but then also save you 10 points on your cost of goods, that's the difference nowadays of, you know, clicking that open sign on and not. So how do we do it? And again, I'll just go through these slides real quick. We effectively have created an online platform, an e-commerce platform that allows you to trade in an ecosystem or a closed loop system, so that it doesn't need to be one-to-one. Just because I need you, you don't need to use me. You get a digital credit, which is our form of currency. You know, nowadays with the proliferation of the cryptos and things like that, we need to qualify. We are at par in the Canadian marketplace at whatever the dollar trades at. So we do not fluctuate. You don't have to worry about gains or losses or anything like that. Whatever the Canadian dollar is trading at is what we're going to transact at, and it's full retail. Okay. Now, most importantly, and this is something that's not in the slides, we're CRA approved because they get their piece of the pie. This is not a tax haven. This is not something where we're going to, you know, say, hey, do this, but do this over here. All the new business that we bring you is qualified new income. You pay GST, but then when you spend, you also get to expense the GST. So we want to get that out of the way. We are not some small, you know, old boys locker room type club barter economy. This is something that we do business and transact millions of dollars every month. And again, we are actually just getting started. So I'm excited about where we are currently. Okay. Now, we've seen in Alberta so many small businesses go from that 100% busy, 100% time to having so much available capacity that they don't know what to do. And they're letting people go, laying people off, whatever it may be. So what we've done now is this, is that we want to create a barter pay trade theory. And that theory is this: anything that we do with you and for you would be new business that you would receive through our brokering that you would otherwise have not received in cash. So we're not here to take a current client and convert them to barter pay. Again, take the cash, cash is king. However, if that client is about to move, or that client is only at, say, $10,000 a year in invoicing, well, if we can take them to 30 or 40, then we would ask that a portion of that would then be barter, okay? And then when you choose to receive this business, you are not turning down any other regular cash paying clients, okay? And that's key, because again, we're not here to change the way that you make business. We're here to add a layer of opportunity where we do majority of the work, okay? So how do we do it? We work on the cost of goods model. So in any sort of environment that we work with, we look at what they specifically do. Say you are a restaurant, and I'll use that because I've come from a restaurant background, so I know it fairly well. Their costs of goods have multiple lines within it, but what we're really looking at is what they would be doing and what product or service they would be providing to us specifically at the time of transaction. So for them, it would be food and beverage, because the restaurants, again, would typically be open. They'd be paying their servers. They'd be paying all of the essential services. All we would do is we would be putting bums in seats, and they would transact from there. Now, the model is this. They would say I walked in, and as I look through here, I would take all of you boys for a beer and wings. Say that bill comes to $100, just for easy math. Well, the restaurant doesn't pay $100 in order to have that transaction happen. They're paying for their food and their beverage, right? And average industry percentage base is going to be about 30%. So within our model is that they're able to transact and get things that they need at a 30% invoice, okay? So, and that's simply because of this. And as it shows here on the slides, is that for the restaurant, it's food and beverage. For the printer, it would be their paper and ink and some of their labor. Contractors would be their materials plus the additional hourly labor. And then in the retail would be the cost of products sold, okay? So what we have is we have this sliding scale. Now, this changes based off of specific brands, but we kind of have an industry standard, right? So we are quite successful with the fitness facilities, with the golf courses, with these, you know, places that are group-based, or their commodity is time. So again, let's go back to the restaurants. You know, if they have a 200-seat restaurant, but there's only 100 people in there, Well, those extra 100 seats are a liability. They're not actually an asset. Now let's go with a golf course, just because we're coming into spring. I know that we all want to get out on the golf course, and we hope that the government will allow us out there soon enough. For them, every 8 minutes, time expires, money expires, and they'll never get it back. For us, we say, well, listen, don't spend $10,000 in marketing. Allow us to take $10,000 in retail value of green fees, and we'll place people on the tee box, allowing them to get a cash up opportunity, maybe in the clubhouse, maybe at the pro shop, beer cart, et cetera, right? So, and as you move up this scale, we still show value. Typically, we like to say when you get to that 60-70% marker is where we're going to see the biggest range of success. But after that, it gets a little bit tight. And we're very transparent. We're not for everyone. So, when you look at airfare, and again, when they start flying, they're going to be overbooking like they've become known for a great deal, right? So again, they would be an industry that is 100% busy 100% of the time, if they're allowed to be, right? But what BarterPay does is we want to look at where your cost of goods are based on your business. We understand that there's going to be fluctuations. And then we're going to say, okay, let's look at where our success plan can be and would be based off of some of your product offerings. Now, we're very fortunate to be able to create an internal ecosystem that just because you offer from here to here in your retail world or on your website, you may third party a couple of those items. We're going to bring it down and say, listen, only your high profit, low cost of goods opportunities is where we want to play. And you're allowed to, turn on and off the faucet of the BarterPay system, depending on your volume, right? So again, typically we would have talked to landscapers 2 to 3 months ago, before the trade shows, because now they're ramping up. While, because we missed the trade shows, many of them are coming to us saying, listen, book us because we want to keep our teams. We want to keep the quote unquote blade sharp, no pun intended for some of them, right? And allow them to do work. And more importantly, place, a sandwich board sign or some sort of marketing or collateral in those areas, providing them with a cash opportunity again, right? So
Matt, can we possibly go to full screen, please?
Yeah, sorry, are you not on full screen?
We're looking at your slide deck view, not use slideshow.
Sorry, guys. Let me see. I'm gonna stop and I'll redo. Sorry, guys. Well, it's not letting me. I'll just switch screens. Here, bear with me. That better?
Click the use slideshow in your top left corner.
I am. That better?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that, guys. So let's go through this again, since I've been having you guys need your bifocals on. So the media, hotel, gyms, RMT, all of these things are where we see our greatest success. Again, when you have a billboard, and in the digital world, when it's an 8-second spot, well, we can then barter that at full retail, providing you additional client base and allowing you to, again, create market share, market penetration, right? Gyms, RMTs, sports teams, entertainment. So anything that is ticket based. And again, let's be transparent here. Much of the entertainment and event industry has been, I guess they've been brought to their knees with what's going on right now, right? So we had partnered with some great brands like Big Valley Jamboree, Country Thunder, and some of these other big clients, because they were able to sell tickets because, you know, if they're not at capacity, once the show starts, they're not able to continue to sell tickets, right? And they would not realize the full value or revenue source, right? And then on the turnaround, and this is the most important part, and I'll go to the next slide here, is that when you're purchasing, right? So what's happening now is this, is that you have these barter pay credits in your bank account, right? And it's based off of things that you either weren't selling or that was you were not busy at the time. So a truck was, you know, at the shop rather than out and with a customer, whatever it may be. But then the biggest opportunity is where we go and spend. So first, we have a team here and a team nationally of brokers that sit in front of a computer and just start to connect dots for business owners, given their wish list, right? So let's say Mitch wanted to do a speaking series, and he wanted to grow it across Canada. Well, we have opportunity and venues for him to plug into all the way across, and he could pay for a portion of that or all of that in barter, allowing him to cash flow faster based off of ticket sales, et cetera, et cetera. But more importantly, and this is what we found here in Alberta, is that many of our trades groups, and I'll just use trades as kind of the industry right now, because they were so busy before and they found that they softened so quickly, they were racing to the bottom with their pricing mentality. So what was a $1,000 invoice is now an $800 invoice or a $700 invoice. And that's difficult to recover from, because although you may be able to afford one or two of those, if you had 10 or 15, you know, there's no profit there. So what we've done now is we've helped insulate the price point of a closer to retail environment, right? So typically our invoices are not the quote unquote cheapest, because we don't want to be. We want you to be able to build in that, again, cost of goods in order to make sure that you have enough meat on the bone in order to spend and profit from it, right? So if you look at these quotes here, you know, quote 1 in cash, 1,000, quote 2 is 1,100, quote 3 is 1,300, but it's in all trade dollars or barter pay credits, and quote 4 is 1,500. You know, although we are, let's say, you know, well, we're the third more expensive, but we're actually the best deal based off of a 50% cost of goods. So again, a typical retail environment, you know, that means that you have the option of saving, you know, more than $300. Now, this math is based off of a model that we've had in effect up until COVID-19 came out, and I'm going to express that in just a couple of moments. So the way that BarterPay worked, and still does work in many of our ecosystem, is that there's an application fee because we're a membership. There's a monthly subscription for, again, your online storage and your quote unquote bank. And then when you transact and you want to purchase something, we would then do a brokering fee because, again, one of our biggest benefits is that we allow you to just keep in your core cash business, doing what you do, focusing on that, and you just call us up when you need something. Okay, so we go to work for you, allowing you to do what you've always done and allowing you to grow your cash business while we're helping you on the barter pay side. Okay, well, when that happened is we would trigger a 12.95% brokering fee. We still do that on much of what we do. However, I'm actually quite excited to say that we are moving to a subscription-based plan now. And what that looks like is this, is that it's just going to be a monthly one-time payment. There will be thresholds for bartering. So, you know, right now it's $59 a month. You can do as much trade as you possibly can, up to 50,000 for the year. Once we get to that threshold, then there will be an increased monthly fee. But ultimately, it's no different than getting on board with, you know, a Netflix, or, you know, I'm now a Disney Plus user because I have 2 kids upstairs and I need to entertain them while I'm on a Zoom call, right? So those type of programs or subscriptions is where we see our biggest benefit, because then you have a wide range of opportunity. You're more engaged with us because it's up to you to then say, hey, I want to be able to realize the value of this. Here's how. Then you give us our wish list or your wish list, and then we go to work for you. Okay. So the two worlds that we're talking about here is this, is the cash world versus the barter pay world. Now, again, if you can take it in cash, take the cash. But right now, how long would it take you to generate, or your company to generate $50,000 in new cash sales? It would take quite some time. we're all trying to find new ways to engage and to disrupt people's buying habits and thinking habits. So we put it in as just an average 50 hours. Now, to turn around and spend that, it's gone before you have it in today's world, right? So it take you very little time. So you have 51 hours of your time, the business's time, in order to create that transaction. Now, in the barter pay world, what we say is this, is that we're going to be able to go to work for you and generate the 50,000 in new trade sales quite quickly. Because again, it's a loyalty program. People are always going to be more willing to spend in our ecosystem within our platform because of the built-in savings, right? Now, we're not cash. So you're not going to be able to go out and just go down the road and drop down your barter pay card and say, okay, I want this, this, and this. Closed loop network. So we're only as good as our active membership, right? Now it's going to take you a little bit more time, but through some, again, a little bit of time, a little bit of energy for us and our brokering team, we'll go out and we'll be able to spend that 50,000 in trade in about half the time that it would take in order to generate new sales. So I think this is actually our biggest value. Outside of the cost savings and the money savings, keeping true cash in the bank, the time aspect for me when I was a restaurateur was the biggest thing, because I was able to make more money. But after my 15-hour day, I was going, ooh, I wish I had more time. So this is where we see our biggest asset being, allowing you to do what you do, but adding to your system, right? So I had a conversation with a gentleman down in Red Deer who wants to explore and expand out to Saskatchewan and Manitoba. Well, his hard cost as a small business would either be himself or his business partner traveling there, whether or not it's a hotel stay or he has friends, family, whatever it may be, or they purchase a property. That's a hard cost. Then he has to go out, he has to entertain, he has to do, business building, networking, whatever it may be. Well, I say, well, listen, don't spend any of those dollars, keep them in your business as cash, allow us to go into the barter pay system with our other franchisees in those regions and do goods and services at the same dollar amount that you were willing to spend in cash. Now, that is key for most of us today, is that if you're going to scale, you have to spend money up front. You hope that you get your return on investment quickly. But what we would say is this, is that I have 19 business partners, other franchisees that work all across Canada that are motivated to get you business, because that's the only way that we can transact barter, right? So that to me is the biggest thing. Here's some other values for you. We have, again, like I mentioned, a barter brokering team all across Canada that help us with you closely in order to make sure that what we're offering is available, and when it's not, we shut it down, okay? Next, we have our online platform, so all of the barter tools, and you can see that obviously, and Ben, I think you'll be active based off of whatever device you're on. Feel like it's like an online banking platform, okay? This is how it looks, nice clean look. You're able to, and I'll just kind of hint at a couple. So we make sure that the spending is the key focus, because that's the only way that you realize your savings, right? But you can go through a directory that's either a list view or a map view. You can go through and do classifieds, which is kind of the one-off. So say you're an HVAC company and you have 2 furnaces left from 2 years ago. We can certainly see about making that transaction happen in a more efficient way. And I'll give you a little bit of a testimonial or a transaction that actually happened. We deal with a couple of different HVAC companies here. They had a reverse flow furnace for 2 years, new in box, ordered it for a client, the deal fell apart, they had it new in box, they couldn't sell it. What does reverse flow mean? It means up to down versus down to up. They couldn't sell it. They came into the BarterPay ecosystem, and within 24 hours, I had it on a pallet being shipped to a vineyard out in Ontario, and it happened seamlessly. And they were amazed, and they now say yes to barter all the time, right? So these are the ways that we can help create a deal that you would have to spend a great deal of time, energy, and money in order to make that happen, okay? Next, we have our barter blasts or some of our marketing or collateral. So we work closely with the business owners to create ads. We have a design team in our corporate office. And this is something that we will do for you on a weekly, quarterly, monthly, whatever it may be, and you get listed locally as often as you'd like, and then nationally when things are convenient for you as well, okay? And again, when that happens, you'll see and hear the phone. Barter promos are more of the one-offs, and as you kind of look at the center of the screen here, we do a great deal of timeshare and travel. Now, we're not going to get you airfare, like I had mentioned before, but once you're there, you can then, you know, if it's a barter pay city, you can offset much of your cash costs. Now, we do quite a bit in Mexico, some in Europe, and it's just something where, again, like, we use this as a platform for one of our restaurant partners, and they said, whoever is the most, you know, effective server over a quarter, and they did their KPIs internally, whatever it may be, they basically paid for a week's long trip to Mexico. Well, that's something that would have cost them probably far. With our platform, we did all the work for them and we made it happen seamlessly, which was a great opportunity for us. We now work with many of the teams for an internal staff incentive. And I can talk about that in just a moment. And then what we do is trade gifts. Now, we are moving these to a digital format, but right now they're basically like a gift card. So we can take a card, their metal card, their digital cards, but then we can also do a paper product so that they can reconcile with their bookkeepers and things like that. And this is something that we do here locally with many of our food and beverage and our retail partners, okay? Barter events, and I'm glad that we have this Barter Pay It Forward logo up on here now. So we do quarterly events. We obviously are now doing more frequently Zoom events. We're getting people together because we understand that relationships are where all business happens, right? We want to help foster and grow relationships within the Barter Pay ecosystem by getting people in a room, socializing, doing whatever they need to do. And then at that point, if we can help them convert that into a sale or into a savings, let's do that too. Now, the barter movement is something that's fairly new to us, and I'm very proud to be a part of and to be the director in Alberta. It's our charitable arm. So again, many businesses now don't have the funds to donate directly. And we've actually done some research, and we've partnered with a company called Imagine Canada, which is kind of like the Restaurants Canada for charities in the nation. So they help create a membership and activation for all the charities and nonprofits in Canada. And we've got an affinity program with them and a partnership. And they found that, the baby boomers were the last great givers, and more people are now aligning with brands and with companies that donate to their preferred nonprofit or charities. So they're buying a product from Apple because of Project Red. So we've now created the same type of platform where, say that HVAC company, again, doesn't have the $10,000 to pay for the naming rights of a gala, but they do have $10,000 worth of product. Well, we'll take that product, we'll sell it within the system, provide the charity the 10,000 barter pay credits, and allow them to offset their costs for that gala. And that's something that has been a huge focus, a huge movement for us, because we really want to create that social impact, and we want to create momentum for these charities that are, again, finding it very challenging in the COVID world. And then the Barter Pay POS, which is our point of sale system that you can download through the app stores. We do very frequent updates, and our goal is that that will be the system where you can just tap on the icon, everything is there for you. You as a business owner can actually do a transaction through that app, and it's real time. So it happens very similar to a Tap, an Apple Pay, a Google Pay, all those things, okay? So the newest opportunity for us right now, and again, just because we understand what businesses are going through, is barter loans. So if you are a startup, or say you're F45 in Sherwood Park that have yet to take down the window coverings because they were about to open and now they can't. Well, they were expecting cash flow and they don't have it. Bridge that gap with a barter pay loan in order to help offset some of the costs that you may have. Again, if it's triple net, you may have HVAC maintenance and performance. You might need more marketing. Well, we have those type of partners. So these are all things that we've now been encouraged to do, and we want to be able to make the impact. I've been working with a couple of commercial property managers to help offset rent, because again, if you're not open, it's going to be very difficult to make the rent or the lease. And we've been able to make some of those deals happen here locally. And I'm proud that we're going to be able to see some of the businesses reopen because of that. And then from there, you get your statements, whatever it may be. I'll flip through the very end because I want to make sure that we have enough time to open it up for questions or any sort of experience that you may have had, and let us know. Because I will say that BarterPay is not the only player in the game. We're by far the largest in Canada. To know and get feedback, because we really want to know how we can create that momentum for you and for your teams in order to see us weather this storm together, short term and long term. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and then we can open it up for any sort of questions, okay?
All right, I got a couple questions for you, Matt.
Please.
Okay, so if I have excess inventory, first question is how do you verify the retail cost of that? I have a good sitting here ready to go. I say it's worth $5. You say it's worth $3. How do you work that? What's the...
Great question. So again, part of the role of the broker is to go out into the cash ecosystem and make sure that there's no inflation. Now, again, we do understand based off of brands and products that there's going to be a little bit of a disparity. And we have companies, we're not a single seat type organization similar to like the networking groups out there. We have 3 or 4 HVAC companies. We have 3 or 4 countertop stone companies, but they're placed in certain sectors and certain industry because, some people only want to work with the high-end builders, but because of that, their pricing is a little bit higher. Some people want to be the entry level, do the mass multi-unit high rises. Well, their price point is going to be very different, right? So our brokering team will go out and verify that. Now, again, we're also not going to be a trade professional. We're here to be, we don't want to say a jack of all trades, master of none, but we need to understand what the system is or what the product is. We'll go out and make some calls nationally and make sure and verify that it's within a non-inflated price point. And then from there, we feel comfortable taking it to market.
Right. Because that would give me peace of mind if I'm buying something off your platform that it's actually valued correctly what I'm buying.
True, so, and it only works if it's fair retail. If there's an inflation, then your margins decrease, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. The charity thing, if you donate, like say you do sell some excess inventory and you create those trade dollars, like the barter dollars in your system, and you donate to the charity, is that like a tax write-off? Do you get the charity receipt for that kind of stuff through there?
True. And what I would ask for all of you, follow BarterPay and BarterPay It Forward on Instagram. Okay. So we do daily, almost hourly postings now of any one of our clients and partners that will donate. And like we've had donations of 125 trade dollars, but we had one nursery landscape company out in Ontario donate $60,000 worth of plants and then turn around and donate 100% of those trade dollars, those barter credits, into the BarterPay It Forward Foundation. And then we then sent them to, whatever their preferred charity was, right? And yes, you do get a receipt for that.
Okay. And I don't want to monopolize time, but I have one more question. So you accumulate those dollars. How obscure of inventory can you guys handle? And what I mean by that is, there's a lot of, I'm just thinking of excess inventory I have of little plastic or low stuff that you can put into your barter system, or is it more you're looking for mainstream type items that are easily flippable?
Yeah, and again, great. Thank you for that, because we smirk at that because we're not magic. So we operate just like any other business. If it is purple shag carpet and you have 400 feet of it, maybe, but like that's not a success plan, right? So again, if it's logoed and it's something that you can't get rid of, there's a reason for that. Now we're more successful because of the cost savings and the loyalty plan. But yeah, we're Harry Potter. We're not going to create something from nothing, right?
Right, but you would allow that to be listed just in case something could move.
Yeah, we would look at it and we would give you the like a viable option. If it's going to work, yes. If not, then we would say, hey, listen, it's it's just not it, right? So, and Scott's giving me a heads up. So BarterPay YEG is also our local Instagram and kind of social sites. Follow those. I'll be very transparent, and Scott and Mitch will laugh a little bit. I'm hiring a social media company because I'm just not that guy. So you're going to see it be far more engaged. As I sit here, you know, in my basement looking at my kids out the window and going, oh, I should Instagram that too, because that would probably be engaging. But I will be better at that too. So yeah, if you just search BarterPay, it will come up. I do also suggest the YouTube channel that we have. That's where our national platform is kind of evolving. And there's some great explainer videos, you know, 30-second, 2-minute, whatever it may be. And we also do have our CEO and co-founder on national level calls similar to this. And we've now created funnels where it's either product specific, service specific, restaurant specific, just because we see the need for that. Now we're creating like female entrepreneurs and trades companies specific as well. And he'll talk about how we dive into it based off of those industries and silos, but how we create this, you know, broad scope of opportunity, because it's not, you know, so many trades companies are only thinking about the trades. They're not looking at how they can, you know, market better or more effectively through our platform, right? Anybody else?
Sure, I got a question.
Yeah.
Now I noticed you're covering the Edmonton area. Are you doing Alberta wide, or is it just Edmonton?
So I, as a territory, have everything from Red Deer north, but because I'm the closest franchisee anywhere in Alberta, I effectively can work from the borders. We do have a Medicine Hat franchise that is actually corporately run now, because that franchisee has since retired and just took it back from a corporate stance. But if you have partners that you want to work with, or if you have people that may have an interest in this, just get them on a call like this with me. And then if it's in Alberta, I'll tend to them with my team. If it's something outside of this region, then we can plug them into the other franchisees and those partners out there.
Right. Okay. Yeah, no, I was just wondering because I noticed Calgary was not on the list there.
No.
So just wondering.
Yeah, and just over a dozen clients in Calgary, and they're listed. They just, again, they're not as active, and because there's not local boots on the ground, it's just, again, we need to be more effective and efficient with the relationship building, right? So
Okay, good, thank you.
Matt, what industries can't you do?
good question. So again, anything where your margins are so tight that it just doesn't make sense. Now, because of our new subscription-based platform, we've kind of eliminated that barrier for ourselves. But typically we would say this: new cars and new power sports, right? Anything that has a key, their margins are quite tight right now, but I'll talk about that in just a second. Small electronics. So again, we're not going to get you a brand new iPad because they typically don't make any money on them. It's a volume game. Tires, things like that, right? So you need to look at what the industry is as a whole. And if they are very much a volume-based provider, we're not going to see as much success with them. But again, now that we've kind of switched how we're getting paid, we've been able to re-engage with some of those industry, and they see the value in it, right? So like I have a couple of car dealerships that I work with here locally. And again, the model was this. I went to them, and it wasn't a free-for-all. I went to them saying, listen, what is the oldest car or oldest unit on your lot right now? I'll take that. Because if it's in the back of their, the back 40 covered in a tarp, the sales guys aren't going to think about it. The service guys don't want to look at it. And it's a depreciating asset that's becoming a liability, right?
So
the system was this, is that I walked in saying, listen, give me your oldest unit. They type it up. They say, okay, here's this vehicle. It's 612 days old. I'm like, great. What's your MSRP on that? $50,000. What are you trying to sell it for? $46,000. Okay, I'll give you 50 because we're fine paying, again, closer to retail. Again, we're not magic. We're not going to inflate it. So we took a $50,000 vehicle that is only worth what they're able to get from a price point. It's only worth what people are willing to spend. that product to 4 new bathrooms, a full renovation, brand new floor in their used car center, which they were going to spend cash on anyway, right? But what it did is that we took the vehicle and we actually placed it in our auction for barter pay it forward, but they were named as the provider. So although I paid for it, we wanted to give them the community involvement. And again, like as you see behind me here, it's something about providing them the opportunity to be named as that. And then we actually, because it was an auction, that $50,000 car went for like 140,000 trade dollars, which we then plugged into the Barter Pay It Forward organization, and we divvied up to many nonprofits and charities, right? But more importantly is that they had something that they had already paid for. They didn't floor plan or they didn't finance. They paid for that unit, and they couldn't move it. But they were about to outlay over $50,000 into their cash expenditures for the work that we did, right? So that's where, again, like we'll be creative and like, again, we're not magic, but where are you about to spend money, right? And that could be marketing, that could be SEO, that could be print, that could be app development, that could be you want to get your animal waste from your backyard cleaned up now that it's spring, right? So we operate in so many different sectors and industry that we really can capture the attention of most. You just have to have the capacity or the inventory to make it make sense for you.
So barter, whether barter pay or barter period or anything else where it's not just cash based, walk me through a day in the life of an entrepreneur and where what in this marketplace right now, somebody can take advantage of it. Because if I think about it, I've got a few of those, but you know that a lot better. So you wake up in the morning, Greg wakes up in the morning, Jeff wakes up in the morning. Where does all of this apply instead of just hitting my wallet?
Right. So I guess the biggest opportunity for us is that because people are already changing their buying habits, we're able to help insert your brand into that change, into that mindset. We see our greatest success right now in the leasehold and the leasehold improvements based off of our current network. And now specifically, again, the landlords, and now with the new rebates and incentives that are coming out from the government, everything is changing and everything is so fluid. But the landlords want their money and they don't want to have to worry about this income versus rebate versus this versus that. They can use the barter pay credit on many of the things that they would be spending on a weekly, daily, monthly basis, right? So when you wake up, you're going, okay, how am I going to create market opportunity, market share? How am I going to convert whatever I'm doing to a paid customer? Well, just know this is that you, through a barter pay partnership, would have myself, would have Karen, would have Daryl and my team all doing the same thing. Because if you have something, if you have an asset, whether or not that's time or a product, we're going out and trying to sell it for you as well. Now, many people say, well, wait a minute, I'm not cash. You're right. But the cash in and cash out equation, because you have to remember, we're not cash in, but it's also not cash out. So your savings is still there, because if we're helping you save $10,000 a month in cash and you're spending it at your cost of goods, and say you're a retail environment, a retail store, that costs you $5,000. So you now have $5,000 extra cash dollars that you can go out and spend somewhere else in order to leverage that and be more efficient with your marketing or customer.
Okay.
Did that answer the question? Okay.
Yeah, it spurred a question for me though. So if let's say I put some excess inventory into your system, you manage to go out and flip that really fast, and it's worth 10,000 trade dollars. That goes into my bank. Is there like a set time that I have to spend that money, or like do you guys have expiration on that kind of stuff, or is it always there for you?
Yeah, so to operate as we do with the government, no expiration. It's just like a dollar. And I'm laughing at this because many of the conversations that we have had for myself for 4 years and for the company for 2 decades is, first, what does the government think of it? And we explain that early on. It's a CRA approved platform, right? So because we're not a tax haven. Second, who's on your list, which our list is an ever evolving menu because again, we allow the businesses to turn on and off the faucet of barter depending on what they do, right? So again, the landscapers, typically we'd be doing work with them right now, but they would dial it down in June, July, and August because that's their core cash making season, right? So we understand, like, we're not going to ask them to do barter when they are 100% busy, right? And then the third question is, well, what happens if I can't get rid of my trade dollars or my barter pay credit? And we say, and that's why we added that slide in. It's going to take longer. We're upfront about that because we're not cash. But now, and more so than ever, when 60% of businesses are closed right now in Alberta and other, we're still able to operate at a capacity because people are still willing to do the work with us because they see the savings, right? So, people have asked us before, what happens if BarterPay goes bankrupt? And we say the only way that would happen is if every single company in Canada would close its doors at the same time, all in one day. So we smirk because we've weathered that storm as well, because it's not just about what we currently have. Every other business in Canada would also have to say no. So we're actually gaining more companies day by day through this type of platform and these type of conversations than that are going dark, right? Or not able to operate based off of whatever the guidelines there are provincially or nationally, right? So we're actually growing and our volume would suggest that as well, right? So like, we're not just growing based off of memberships, which is a $60,000 audio visual package that they took $25,000 in trade on, and we just transacted that because they had more time to do it, right? So these are all things that will keep you and your teams busy, allowing you to be more efficient. Because, and I can only speak for my history, is that in restaurants, we rarely made a mistake on Friday, Saturday nights because everybody was in their zone. Everybody was in a groove. The mistakes typically happened on like the Sunday afternoons or the Tuesdays, right? Because people were kind of laissez-faire. So we want to keep the blade sharp, and we're able to do that by providing you things to do. Anybody else? No? Okay. Mitch?
Everybody, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for investing some time and opportunity to look at a different method of looking at what to do with your business. Now, BarterPay is, from a Canadian standpoint, nationwide, but this is not the only one. It's not to take away from what Matt's doing for a moment, but our ability to look at the way our business can work, and inside of just this model, for example, in BarterPay itself, real estate services, legal services, accounting services, etc. Those that would continuously or regularly think of as essential, primary, critical from a business side of things, as well as from a personal moving forward, are areas that you can take opportunity in. But that means that we, as business owners and as people, often don't look at what we should be doing or making consideration for how else we can conduct or consider doing business in the future. There are more ways than one. And in essence, sometimes we will think of it as dirty, different. Is this something that I can be looking at? But the reality is, for thousands of years, we have traded one object for another until we created value in monetary currency. And then we switched to a paperback currency. And in turn, we've continued to move away from something that has been the cornerstone of our economy up until now. To go back to my opening comment, the value of $1 in your pocket is not the same from person to person, never mind region to region or nation to nation. I can move to the United States and have to spend more of my dollars to transact on the same things I buy here. But I can, in essence, still end up spending less, even though my currency is worth less when I'm down there, just because the leverage point that they have in the form of just $1, never mind how we perceive the value of it. Finding different ways to get your business to develop and grow, to get these services, products, commodities, and offerings that you need for something more than just the value of what a single dollar is immeasurably powerful in your business. And finding a way to take things, excess inventory, which is your time, your intellectual capital, your physical products, etc., needs to be considered for your business to continue to develop and grow moving forward. If you can find a way, and for the instances of financial planners, accountants, et cetera, in the world, from my own perspective as a business coach, if you can increase your business modestly between 3 and 5% this year, and yet find a way to save 3% on your net expenses throughout the course of a year, you create an impact that is almost 11% different from last year to this. And yet your growth is only a modest 3 to 5%. If you do that every year for the next 3 years, you equate to almost a 40% increase in what your actual end result buying dollar is than where you were before. If you can find a difference, as Matt's talking about through BarterPay, for example, where you can save an average of a third to buy the exact same thing, it's because you found a different way to look at it. And so it bears looking at because it just makes sense for business. So find those opportunities to leverage and grow and expand your business, to change the way you perceive dollars, and more importantly, change the way you do business. And you're going to find more of what you need and want, and you're going to find different ways to move those services, products, commodities, or offerings that you have into the marketplace and expand overall, because not every transaction fits the same model. All transactions will start with dollars, but not every transaction has to finish there. And you'll find new and creative ways to leverage to get what you need, not just what you think you do. And at the end of the day, money is everything as it makes our world go around, but the accumulation of money is not necessarily all of what we need. When we need food, shelter, clothing, we need vehicles, we need entertainment, we need accounting, we need lawyers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And these things can be found for more than just money. So Matt, thank you for hosting and discussing today. For those that came and joined us, thank you for being here. And for everybody that joins us in the coming weeks and months, understand that money is essential, but the product of what we get by exchanging money is what we're really after. And when you could find a different way to leverage what you have or what somebody else has that might not necessarily require money straight away, you start to change the way you perceive how money works in business, to change the way money is going to impact your business and ultimately what you're going to get as an outcome. So thank you for joining us. For those that are watching in the future, please do not hesitate to reach out to Matt or any other organization, or of course, inside of our own syndicate. Questions or comments, we enjoy having those come towards us, and we're certainly here to help. Have a great afternoon, and we will talk to you soon.
Thanks, everybody.